Hello, everybody. Welcome on out. My name is Nick, your coach of the West Michigan Whiskash. I am here with our draft analysis for the IPA Season 2 Indigo Plateau Association Zapdos Division. So, for those of you who are unfamiliar with Draft League content, Draft League is a form of competitive Pokemon where you draft Pokemon to your team. You have a team of 11, and once you pick a Pokemon, it is yours and no one else can have it. Then you go through a season about 7 to 12 weeks. This one happens to be 7. And you know what your opponent has. You don't know what they're going to bring, though. So you pick 6 Pokemon that you think can counter team theirs. You do a battle and hope you win. So in this, I'm going to be going over what I picked, why I picked it, and kind of give a breakdown of the team. So let's get started right away. I had the 6th overall pick, so I had 5 people going before me, and I knew what I wanted to start. And typically, you want to get something you're kind of comfortable with, or something that you just think can be super, super duper broken. I kind of didn't do either of those. Usually, what I look for in a first pick is something that can do a lot of different things. So that's what I went for. And I went for a tier 1 Pokemon. I went for Necrozma. And Necrozma is such a good Pokemon. Looking at its stats, base over 100 in both attacking stats. Its defense is really good at 101. Speed is kind of lackluster, but that's alright. And then Spadef is 89, which is still not too bad. The reason it's such a good Pokemon, especially in tier 1, is its ability Prism Armor, which makes super effective damage do a lot less. So oftentimes you'll see it paired with a weakness policy, which, doubles your attack and special attack if you get hit with a super effective move. But there's a lot more you can do with Necrozma, which is what I really, really like about it. For example, you got your standard Autotomizer, Rock Polish, weakness policy set. But it's gotten a lot more. It's got access to Dragon Dance this generation, so you can raise your speed and attack by 1. You've got Calm Mind, which is really, really good, which raises both your special attack and special defense. It gets Iron Defense, which is super good, doubling your defense stat is really good. And then its signature move in Photon Geyser, which is also really good, because it's going to ignore abilities, so it'll always hit basically anything that isn't a dark type. But the other really cool thing about it is if you're running a physical Necrozma and your attack is higher than your special attack, it's going to do damage from the physical side rather than the special side. So it's really, really cool with that. It's got access to a lot of other cool things this generation, like where's the move? Meteor Beam, which is really cool. Pair that with a Power Herb, so that way it just goes off in one attack, in one move, and it's really good. Has reliable recovery in Moonlight and Morning Sun, and I just thought it was really good for a first round pick. And there's a lot you can do with it, like I said. So yeah, that's Necrozma, my first overall pick number 6 overall. Second, I wanted to draft a team based on psychic terrain. At this point, Tapu Lele had already been drafted, and Tapu Koko had also been drafted. And so that kind of put my radar on this next Pokemon, which is Hawlucha, which is usually paired with, Tapu Lele or Tapu Koko, because the Psychic Seed or Electric Seed paired with Unburden, you're getting that boost from the seed, and then you're doubling your speed from losing the item. Obviously, there's much more you can do with that. Power Herb Sky Attack is all the rage on the ladder right now. Turning Sky Attack from a 2-turn move into a 1-turn move. So you get big damage off, and then you get your double speed too. Mold Breaker isn't necessarily the greatest ability, but I did think it paired well with Necrozma, given that it gets... I think it gets Throat Chop. Yeah, it gets Throat Chop, gets U-Turn, which with Mold Breaker would ignore that Neuroforce lowering of super effective damage. So I thought that paired really well. It's really fast, has really good attack, and Unburden is just such a good ability for what it's worth. And quite frankly, I didn't want either of the other terrain teams to get Hawlucha because it's a pain in the butt to prep for. Next on the draft for my third round from Tier 3, this is where I ended up getting my terrain. I went with Indeedee Male. There are two Indeedees. There is the female form. So this is where I'm getting my terrain. I'm getting Psychic Surge out of it. And it's really good. Psychic terrain is really good. It boosts its psychic type attacks. It makes priority coming against me just not work. So if I have Necrozma setting up a bunch of Dragon Dances and someone tries to extreme speed revenge kill me, Psychic terrain is going to nullify that. The other really good thing with Psychic terrain is this new move, Expanding Force, which, has 1.5 times the power in Psychic terrain. And, your premier Psychic terrain setter, Tapu Lele, is banned from using Expanding Force in this league. But you know what's not? Necrozma. Necrozma is still allowed to use Expanding Force. And while its special attack is lower than Lele's, it's only 3 points lower. Tapu Lele has a special attack of 130, and Necrozma has one of 127. That's going to hurt. It hurts enough out of 105 from Indeedee Male. Imagine it off of Necrozma. If I get a Calm Mind boost up, there's nothing switching into that, which is super good. It's just a really good mon. It gets screens to help, some of my other threats, including Necrozma. Its normal stab is pretty spammable, all things considered. Psychic stab, especially with Expanding Force, is incredible. There are a few terrain teams out here, so I feel like there's going to be a lot of terrain wars. But that's alright, all things considered. I'm not too worried about that. Good Cleric and Aromatherapy. So there's a lot it can do. It's more offensive than its female counterpart, but I'm really okay with that. So yeah, Indeedee Male was my third pick. Going into round 4, I wasn't entirely sure what I was going to do. I had a few mons that I wanted to use that I was like, okay, I know I can get them, but maybe I want to secure them. I'm not 100% sure. I was thinking of getting Blastoise. I ended up not getting Blastoise. So instead, I wanted to secure a Rapid Spin blocker, and I also wanted to get a Grounded Poison type, so that way I just don't get mauled by Toxic Spikes. So out of Tier 2, I went Gengar. Gengar got really good this generation. It lost Levitate, I think, last generation, so it's not immune to ground-type attacks anymore, which is unfortunate, but that's alright. I'm not too worried about that. Its big boon is that it's 110 base speed and 130 special attack. Those are huge. Add to the fact that it got Nasty Plot this generation, which will double that special attack. That's just huge. That's so huge. And it also really appreciates Psychic Terrain, because Sucker Punch is one of the best ways to beat it. Because it's super effective on it, and Gengar is not that bulky. Doesn't have a lot of HP, doesn't have a lot of defense. But it's one of the premier special attackers. Shadow Ball and Sludge Wave are so good. Substitute Nasty Plot is really good. Pair it with a Life Orb, pair it with a Scarf, pair it with a Specs. Will-O-Wisp plus Hex, I think, is really underrated. It's just a really good mon, and it gets rid of Toxic Spikes, which is something else that I really, really wanted for the team. And yeah, I'm very happy with Gengar on the squad. Moving on past Gengar, this was also a Pokemon that I've really wanted to use, and I felt like now was a good time to get it. That being, it's mostly a support mom. It's Whimsicott. Whimsicott is also blistering fast, base 116 speed. It's got alright special attack, which is primarily how it'll be attacking, but its biggest draw for me was Prankster, which gives priority to its status moves. That being said, Infiltrator, also an amazing move if somebody tries to set up screens against me and I'm running an offensive Whimsicott. That's very good. Very, very good. But I really wanted Prankster. The reason I wanted Prankster is because of its such amazing support moves. Defog is great to clear, hazards away. Encore is really good if I'm not running a lot of speed and I think something has a scarf or something, or if someone wants to set up a Dragon Dance and then try and sweep me, I can Encore them back into that Dragon Dance or that Calm Mind or whatever, and just make them useless basically. It also has a really good move that pairs with setting up Necrozma, setting up Gengar, setting up some of my later threats that we'll get to in Memento. So it's going to cut in half both of the target's attacking stats with the boon that Whimsicott faints. But that's okay, because both of its attacking stats get lowered. So basically anything can switch in for free. It's really good for that. Switcheroo is also super good for getting rid of potential items on other things, giving it a undesirable item that it might be holding. U-Turn is great for momentum. It's just a really good support Pokemon that I like a lot, and I've really wanted to use it for a while. Next in the draft, so this is a National League draft, so not all these Pokemon are technically released, and that includes Mega Pokemon. And my original plan was to have Mega Diancie, because I really like Mega Diancie, but just the way the team was going, I didn't want to double up on fairy types. My initial plan was very hyper offensive and didn't have a lot of bulk. And so I went for something else. I went for Mega Charizard X. It's such a good Pokemon. Mega Charizard X, the Tough Claws ability, really good. So any moves that make contact get powered up by a Life Orb, which is so good. So hard to switch into with that 130 base attack, 130 special attack, which isn't utilized as much but can be utilized. Typically, you'll see it run Dragon Dance, which once it gets a Dragon Dance up, not a whole lot is outspeeding it, and it's also very, very, very strong and hard to switch into. Has reliable recovery and roost. The one thing that is really bad about it that I'll have to remember is that pre-Mega, it is 4 times weak to Stealth Rocks. So if Stealth Rocks are up, I'm taking 50% damage if I'm not Mega'd. So that's not super good. But I've got the ways to keep Stealth Rocks off my side of the field. Hawlucha gets Defog, Whimsicott gets Defog, Charizard, if I want, gets Defog, but that probably won't ever happen if I'm being honest. Yeah, so Mega Charizard X, super good offensive threat, really good moves to take advantage of it. Maybe I'll run Special Charizard X once this season. Maybe, because, 130 base special attack. Really, 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 really good. So let's move on. So that's the first half of my draft. The second half of the draft, starting out, I went back to tier 3 for a free pick. I went for Cloyster. Like I said, I originally wanted Blastoise as a water-type spinner with Shell Smash, but then I kind of got into trouble with lower tier picks. It was so hard to justify, and that's also why I ended up getting Charizard X. But I really like Cloyster. It gives me Ice-type Stab. It gives me a Rapid Spinner. It gives me both a Spiker and a Toxic Spiker. Unfortunately, the only Spiker and Toxic Spiker on my team, and the only Rapid Spinner. But again, that's alright, because it offers so much more. This generation, it got a lot. It got Reflect, Light Screen. It got Teleport, which is a move that allows you to switch out of the battle, giving you momentum, potentially. Super good. Really good abilities in Shell Armor. Overcoat, if I'm against a Sand team, which I think my first week is actually a Sand team, but its biggest thing is Skill Link, where all of its multi-hit moves, like Rock Blast, like Icicle Spear, I think there's another one, Spike Cannon, I think it gets Pin Missile, all will always hit the maximum amount of times, which is huge, especially when you pair that with Shell Smash, which lowers both of your defenses by one, which is bad for its special defense, but whatever for its physical defense. But doubles your attack, doubles your special attack, and doubles your speed. It is such a good sweeping Pokemon, and it takes everything out. Pokemon behind a substitute aren't safe from it because, like I said, those multi-hit moves will always hit the maximum amount of times. So it's really good. Rapid Spinner, Toxic Spiker, Screen Support if I really want to. It just a really good Pokemon all around, and I'm very glad that I was able to pick it up. I'm glad that I was convinced into this one. After this, I went down into Tier 5, which is the lowest tier, but, we're required to pick one up. And at this point, I was thinking I don't have an electric type. I am kind of weak to Earthquake, all things considered. I'm weak to ground type Pokemon. I need something that can deliver some offensive pressure, but also be a really good backup support mon to Whimsicott. And that's where I found Rotom Fan. I have used Rotom Fan before, and I loved it. Rotom Fan is so good. Base 107 in both defenses, base 105 in special attack, 86 speed is really, really good. Base 50 HP is not good, and you're never going to use its physical attack, so that 65 attack is whatever. My biggest thing that I really like about Rotom Fan is, it's a ground immunity, which is great. But it also has quite a few stats that it can do. It also got access to Nasty Plot in the generation. It has screens, which I think is one of the most underrated Rotom Fan sets ever, is dual screens with Light Clay. Super helpful. A lot of people, I think, forget about it, which is why I think it catches people off guard, and it's so good. It also gets really good support moves in Will-O-Wisp, which will burn and thus half the attack of the opponent, and then it also gets Hex, which has its power doubled if it has that status ailment. It doesn't have a lot of good recovery, Pain Split and Leftovers being its best way of doing that. But yeah, I really like Rotom Fan as a pick. It is severely underrated in my opinion. I never really liked it up until I used it in a different league, and it put in so much work for me. And now I think it's great. I was thinking about Rotom Frost initially, but like I said, I got convinced to use Cloyster, and that was my Ice-type Pokemon, so I ended up going with Rotom Fan instead, which I still think is really good. Next, I wanted something that could actually be a defensive wall. Something that just is kind of immovable. Cloyster has base 180 defense, but Ice is just a terrible, terrible defensive typing. Has the most weaknesses out of anything, and also base 45 special defense is terrible, just straight up bad. So I wanted something that had really good defense, but also respectable special defense, and I also needed a steel type, and I needed a ground type, so that way opponents couldn't just straight up Volt Switch and get momentum on me all day long. So I went with Steelix. Steelix has base 200 defense. 65 special defense still isn't good, but it's a lot better than 45. It's a very, very reliable Stealth Rock setter. It has Sturdy as an ability. It also has Sheer Force, so I will probably run Life Orb Sheer Force at some point, which, as you can see, it makes secondary effects not have a thing, but it boosts the power of those moves, which pairs really well with... Oh, it got Dragon Dance this generation. That's interesting. Drill Run will get powered up by that. Fire Fang gets powered up by that. High Horsepower doesn't. Ice Fang does. Iron Head gets powered up by it. So it has some offensive capabilities, but typically what you're going to see it do is set up Stealth Rocks very reliably every time. It has super, super good defense, so you're going to see it running Body Press a lot. You'll probably see it run Iron Defense to boost up that Body Press. If it gets Iron Defense, I thought it did. Yeah, it does. To boost up that massive defense and boost up that Body Press. Roar is really good for Any opponent who thinks they can just set up in my face and then I can just send them away with a roar. So I think it'll be really good on the team. I'm excited to see Steelix put in some work. We're down to our last 2 picks. Originally, this next pick was a Pokemon called Pangoro, which is a dark and fighting type. It was originally on the team, but then what I wanted originally, it got sniped from me, was Scrafty. And then it got dropped. So I was like, yup, nope, Scrafty is mine now. Scrafty is really good. It gives me some more defensive backbone. Look at those defenses of base 115 apiece. I needed that better special defense. Special defense is where I was very much lacking. Along with HP, you'll see a lot of my Pokemon don't have super high HP. But I was trying to run a little bit more hyper offense on a team. Scrafty has a lot of things going for it. Like I said, it's super bulky, so you'll often see it paired with an Assault Vest, which boosts your special defense, but only allows you to click attacking moves, which is what Scrafty wants to do anyway. It has 3 so good abilities. Shed Skin to make it so that status ailments might just go away. So if someone wants to try and toxic me, that can just go away a third of the time. If I get burned, that can go away a third of the time. If I'm paralyzed, gone. Moxie, so if it revenge kills something, it can get +1 to its attack and just make it sweep even better. Intimidate, lowering the attack of the opponent, making it physically bulkier, is also so good. It can be used as a pivot, so that way I can switch it in, get an Intimidate off, switch it back out into something else, and hopefully set up. Scrafty, in my opinion, such a good pickup in Tier 4. It can also sweep. It gets Dragon Dance, raising that speed. 58 speed isn't great, but it's respectable enough after a Dragon Dance. Also raising the attack, it got Close Combat, which is so good. Crunch for stab, Fire Punch. If I wanted to do Sub-Focus Punch, which I probably won't, but could. Iron Head, Knockoff is so good. Poison Jab is really good. Power Up Punch is really good. Just a lot of good coverage, a lot of good moves. 3 amazing abilities. It's going to be a hard Pokemon to prep for my opponent. And then for our last pick, I'm going to fully admit, this Pokemon is kind of just forever on the chopping block right now. There's a very good chance I get rid of it and pick something else up in free agency. But I decided I would give it a week, maybe 2, to see if it would work. And that's Regirock. Regirock is a little bit redundant on my team. You'll see it also has base 200 defense, which is super good, and base 100 special defense, which is better than both my other premier defensive mons. But it's redundant to Steelix. It also sets up rocks. It can also explode. I think it's Body Press. I'd have to double check. Because Pokemon in this league are able to get moves that aren't released yet, and I want to say it gets Body Press. I'm not 100% sure, though. But yeah, it's going to do a lot of what Steelix does. So it's kind of forever on the chopping blocks. I'm going to give it a week. I think I would rather keep Steelix than Regirock, because Steelix, like I said, gives me a ground type, so that way Pokemon can't just Volt Switch all over me. It also helps complete my Fairy Dragon Steel Core, whereas Regirock is just, it's a hard Pokemon break with just being a rock type, being super resistant and everything. So it's kind of forever on the chopping block. I do know what I would replace it with if I do decide to pull the trigger, and I will, address that if that comes. If not, it doesn't, and Regirock's on the team, and it'll probably be pretty good. So there you have it. There's my team. The 11 on my team are Necrozma, Gengar, Indeedee, Whimsicott, Steelix, Rotom Fan, Mega Charizard X, Hawlucha, Cloyster, Scrafty, and Regirock. My first battle, you can see this is my first opponent over here. That battle is taking place Wednesday evening. I will try and have that video uploaded on Friday evening, though I can't make any promises, but that's when I'm going to try and do it. Let me know what you guys think of the team. Let me know if there are any improvements you think I can make. Let me know about the video. This was my first YouTube video ever made. I have been watching Draft League content for a couple years. I got back into it once quarantine started, so I figured I would, try and make a video. And so let me know what you guys think of it. there's the team one last time. I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. See ya!